A deadly terror attack in Kashmir, over 20 civilians slaughtered. A known Pakistani-backed group claims responsibility. Within hours, India retaliates. Troops mobilize, missiles fire, and jets scream across the sky. What starts as a border skirmish turns into a full-scale war between two nuclear-armed nations, and the world holds its breath. This is no longer a question of if. India and Pakistan are now trading strikes. The death toll is climbing. The threat of nuclear escalation looms. So what happens next? In this video, we break down the most dangerous war scenario on the planet, not by theory, but hour by hour. From the first retaliatory airstrike to the moment nuclear missiles are launched, this is what a modern war between India and Pakistan could really look like. Let's begin with hour zero, the spark that lights the fuse. Deep in the heart of the Kashmir region, which is divided between India and Pakistan, a group of terrorists prepare to strike. Tired of so-called outsiders moving into their territory, the group plans to purge the region of anyone who does not share their faith and heritage. Armed with AK-47s and other weapons, they enter a small village, immediately interrogating local civilians. Anyone who doesn't answer their questions correctly or cannot prove their identity is shot without warning. Dozens die and many more are wounded as they try to fight back against the assailants or flee the area. It's the deadliest attack in the region in years and will prove to be one of the most significant events in both Indian and Pakistani history, the spark that lights the match of a war that will change the world forever. Hour 1. News reports begin to roll out. Headlines are dominated by the attack, with journalists scrambling to find out more. The first images, grainy cell phone photos captured by tourists in the area at the time of the attack, begin to appear on screens around the world. What's more, a group linked to Pakistan's Lashkar-e-Taiba, a jihadist militant group, claims complete responsibility for the attack and issues a statement, vowing future attacks to cleanse the region of any and all outsiders. Among the Indian and Pakistani populations, a whirlwind of emotion breaks out. Anger, fury, and fear grip the people, especially on the Indian side, as news reports reveal that almost all of those killed were Hindus, with Hinduism being by far the dominant faith in India, which is home to around 1.1 billion Hindus in total. The people place the blame for the attack squarely at the feet of Pakistan, which has had strong associations with groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba in the past and has been blamed for funding, arming, and supporting terrorists and militants who target Indians. The people are enraged and tired, and they want action, and at the highest level of government, their concerns are heard. The Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, convenes an emergency meeting with members of his cabinet and key military leaders to discuss the next steps. For those in the upper echelons, there's only one step forward: retaliatory military action. Modi makes the call, facing pressure from a large number of Hindu nationals that got him elected, along with the top military commanders and advisors. He concludes that this time, war with Pakistan is the only true way to avenge his fallen people and stop these terrorists once and for all. Hour 2, Modi and Indian military commanders make their plans to strike back against Pakistan. They understand the importance of striking quickly and ruthlessly, but also must remain aware of the threat that Pakistan poses. It may not have the same military might as India in terms of ground forces or armored vehicle numbers, but it has a large stock of nuclear weapons, plus the backing of key allies like China, which could help if not fend off any Indian invasion, but also potentially deal widespread devastation. So Modi and his advisors make the call to follow India's cold start doctrine in the hopes of minimizing the nuclear threat as quickly as possible. Developed in the 21st century by the Indian Armed Forces, the cold start doctrine dictates the measured, strategic approach that India should logically follow in any possible war with Pakistan to effectively strike at the country while limiting the risk of nuclear retaliation. It mainly focuses on the development and usage of multiple integrated battle groups, or IBGs, which are small, self-contained combat units from different branches of the military, including infantry forces, armor, artillery, and air support, all advancing swiftly into enemy territory to gain ground and, more importantly, resources to bargain with to prevent Pakistan launching any nukes in response. The two keys to this technique are speed and surprise. India has to act fast and catch Pakistan off guard, taking as much ground as it can while the enemy is still mobilizing its forces. In short, there's no time to waste. So the first mobilization orders are sent out, with Indian IBGs told to push up towards bases along the border and prepare for an imminent attack on Pakistani soil. It doesn't intend to take over Pakistan or wipe the country off the map, but it does want to exact real revenge for the latest terrorist attack and those that came before. Taking over Pakistan-occupied Kashmir would be a good start, along with claiming certain towns and regions close to the border, extending its own ground and weakening its enemy in the process. Hour 3, India's attack begins. The country scrambles its aerial forces. Fighter jets take to the skies and missile launches begin on a series of suspected militant sites in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. India has a strong array of jets to choose from for this attack, including its own HAL Tejas jets, along with various jets purchased from other countries around the world like the French Dassault Rafales, Russian Sukhoi Su-30s and older Soviet-style Mikoyan MiG-29s. The jets set off at supersonic speeds in the direction of Kashmir, each one with its own targets to strike, including towns and cities like Muzaffarabad, the biggest city of the Pakistani-administered Azd Kashmir region. They rain down fire from above, taking the militants by surprise and causing widespread damage and casualties. Suspected bases and hiding places of terrorists are blown up with the aid of laser-guided bombs from the Rafales and the Su-30s. Hearing the explosions, civilians rapidly flee their homes and seek shelter wherever they can find it, and news of the strikes soon reaches the upper echelons of the Pakistani government and military, who convene emergency meetings to discuss their response. Hour 4. Pakistan's president, prime minister, and army commanders meet. While the timing and precise nature of India's airstrikes caught them by surprise, they had expected some sort of attack and had contingency plans in place to help them react rapidly. They know all about India's cold start plans and have had years to prepare their own military response. And that response is clear. They will strike back against this Indian aggression, mobilizing their own forces, stationing troops by the border, sending units into Kashmir, and scrambling jets immediately to counter India's aerial threat. Their response must be just as swift as the Indian assault if they are to have any chance of success, and they absolutely have no intention of allowing Indian forces to simply charge across their border and take over their towns. But Pakistan knows that pound for pound, its military cannot fully compete with India's. It has around 650,000 members of active-duty military personnel, with around 550,000 reservists to call up if needed. India, on the other hand, has one of the biggest armies in the world, with more than 1.4 million active-duty members and over 1.1 million reservists. In terms of equipment too, Pakistan knows it's outmatched in many areas. It has fewer aircraft than India, with 1,400 in total compared to 2,200 for India, and far fewer armored vehicles, almost 18,000 compared to India's impressive tally of almost 150,000. Add to that the fact that India allocates around 10 times more money to its defense budget than Pakistan, plus its superior numbers of jets, aerial tankers, helicopters, naval forces, and tanks, and the conclusion is clear. In almost any form of conventional warfare, India has the advantage. But Pakistan has a couple of aces up its sleeve. Firstly, while India has close ties to a key major power in the US, Pakistan can boast of a strong relationship with China, which it could lean on for funding, support, equipment, and even tactical military action to help even the odds in its battle with India. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, Pakistan has just as many nuclear weapons as India, with around 170 on either side. And while India has a strict no first use policy, stating that it will only use nuclear weapons in retaliation if another country strikes them first, Pakistan has no such policy. It has no qualms about launching nukes first, should it feel sufficiently threatened. Thanks to that, it doesn't have to fear a long, drawn-out battle as much as other nations might. It can always resort to nuclear threats and launches. This is Pakistan's biggest weapon, and it makes that known. The government issues a statement condemning India's unprovoked aggression, citing the number of civilian deaths and injuries in the bombings and vowing to strike back. Hour 5. India wastes no time. Its aerial bombardments on key targets in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir continue, and its IBG units push forward toward the border. Its intelligence agency also bursts into overdrive, with agents feverishly using all tools at their disposal in an attempt to learn more about Pakistan's response and next steps. It also initiates a campaign of cyber warfare, having heavily invested in emerging technologies like artificial intelligence to not only guard against Pakistan's possible cyber attacks, but launch attacks of its own on key Pakistani websites and digital infrastructure. But India's head start advantage is quickly disappearing. Pakistan responds in kind. It launches its own cyber attacks, and while it may not necessarily be able to penetrate India's cyber defenses, it's still capable of using bot armies to spread misinformation and propaganda online to shape the narrative of the events. This could help bolster public support for whatever military actions it takes and sway the minds of international communities, muddying the waters and placing blame for the war at India's door rather than their own. It also sends its own troops toward the border and contested regions, like Kashmir, to prepare for any upcoming invasions of territory or further aerial bombardments. And to counter the Indian aerial threat, Pakistan scrambles its own jets, which include the Pakistan and China-made JF-17s, American-made F-16s, and Chinese J-10C Vigorous Dragon jets. Hour 6. The first clashes between Indian and Pakistani forces begin, with intense dogfights taking place over regions like Kashmir and Punjab. The Indian Rafales and Sukhoi Su-30s clash with Pakistani F-16s and JF-17s, with both sides quick to claim victories and successful enemy downs here and there. In truth, India would likely prevail in these aerial contests in the long run. It has over 500 jets in total, while Pakistan has around 330. As well as the numerical advantage, India's jets also boast slightly superior tech on the whole, with the Rafales and Su-30s outperforming Pakistan's top jets. India has longer-range Meteor missiles compared to Pakistan's PL-15s, and India's sophisticated S-400 air defense system would also help in neutralizing Pakistani aircraft attempting to enter Indian airspace. At the same time, Pakistan's aerial forces wouldn't exactly be pushovers. The JF-17 and Chinese J-10Cs are strong, modern fighters, equipped with advanced radar systems and powerful missiles. As dogfights continue, both sides would see losses rack up, and the conflict would become even more grave with every jet down. At this stage, other world leaders reach out, making statements of their own, urging both sides to de-escalate as soon as possible. Some of the major national leaders like President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping of China call the heads of India and Pakistan respectively, eagerly encouraging them to end offensive maneuvers before the war spirals rapidly out of hand. While the US backs India and China backs Pakistan, neither country wants to see this war continue, as the risk of nuclear weapons is simply too large to ignore. For now, however, pleased to end all the fighting fall on deaf ears, both sides will push on, and the fighting will continue. Hour 7. As aerial clashes between the two sides persist, ground warfare is close to breaking out. India has moved its various units into key positions along the border and across Kashmir, and began artillery strikes over the border and into Pakistani territory. It targets strategic locations in the hopes of crippling the Pakistani defenses like Skardu Air Base in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, one of the operating bases of the Pakistan Air Force Northern Air Command. For these attacks, India can call on the use of its extensive arsenal of artillery and missiles. This includes the likes of the Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launcher, capable of firing dozens of rockets per minute with a maximum range of up to 90 kilometers, as well as the K9 Vajra self-propelled howitzer. It also has M777 ultralight howitzers, BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, Agni series ballistic missiles, and much more firepower to back that up. The Indian plan is clear: wipe out as much Pakistani military infrastructure as possible, paving the way for ground forces to push onward and take over territory as quickly and efficiently as possible. Hour 8. Pakistan responds. It's taking heavy damage very early on in this war, but it's got enough firepower to deal some big hits back to India too. Using its artillery and missiles, it launches counterstrikes against Indian forward bases dotted near the borders of Jammu and Kashmir. Like India, Pakistan has quite an extensive array of missiles to fuel these attacks, including M109 howitzers, BM-21 Grad rocket launchers, D-30 artillery, and precision-guided Fateh-1 rockets, plus Shaheen and Gari series ballistic missiles and Babur cruise missiles. It targets Indian Brigade headquarters locations and bases, like Adampur Air Force Base, using its long-range ballistic missiles in the hope of dealing significant damage and slowing the enemy offensive. It also prepares its artillery in key sites near the border, ready to fire on any Indian tanks or armored vehicles that dare to cross and enter its territory. As the explosions ring out and global news headlines are dominated by the ongoing conflict, evacuation efforts begin in major towns and cities near the border. Many people rapidly flee to the far reaches of their country, seeking shelter and refuge with family, friends, or wherever else they can find. Hour 9. Ground warfare begins. In multiple locations throughout Kashmir and along the border between India and Pakistan, India persists with its cold start strategy, sending small, self-contained units into Pakistan. Each unit has its mission, and the overall goal is to take as much land as possible, capture key towns and settlements along the border, neutralize enemy bases, and give India as much leverage as possible should Pakistan resort to nuclear threats. Many of India's mechanized divisions make a strategic push into the northern parts of Pakistan's Punjab region, hoping to cut off the big near-border city of Lahore. They quickly overwhelm and capture small border villages thanks to the power of their T-90 tanks and armored vehicles, forming valuable buffer zones along the border. Meanwhile, Indian Special Forces, the Para-SF, infiltrate deeper into Pakistan-occupied Kashmir with the intent of disrupting supply lines and using both conventional and sophisticated electronic warfare to spread confusion and chaos wherever they go. Hour 10. Pakistan reacts. Its National Security Council issues a public statement denouncing India's excessive and unprovoked aggression, as well as announcing the movement of its NASA tactical nuclear missiles, which have a 60-kilometer range, to forward positions near cities like Lahore and Sialkot. The message is clear: Pakistan is ready and willing to escalate to the use of nuclear weapons, should India's aggression continue, especially if any of Pakistan's major cities fall under threat. Meanwhile, in key border regions like Shikar in Punjab, Pakistan mounts counterattacks. Using its strong artillery, like M109 howitzers, combined with its powerful Al-Khalid tanks, it bombards battalions of Indian troops in an effort to hold key ground. Pakistan's military also calls on all reservists and anyone with military training or experience to join the fight and defend their homeland. As the first day of fighting draws towards its end, a war that's only just begun shows all the signs of escalating into a fierce, long-lasting battle, with major consequences on either side of the divide. Day 2. Pakistan's nuclear threats send ripples across India, all the way to its government and military leaders. But they don't buckle, nor do they abandon their plans. They knew Pakistan would react this way, and they remain confident that their enemy will not use nuclear weapons as long as they continue the cold start doctrine and don't attempt to push too far too soon. Modi and military leaders order the Indian Navy to move ships toward the Pakistan port of Karachi, a vital cog in the country's economy. If it can blockade the port, which accounts for almost 95% of Pakistan's foreign trade, it can cripple the country's ability to import and export goods, dealing a massive blow. And India knows its naval forces are far superior to Pakistan's. It has nearly 3 times as many ships, with almost 300 in total, compared to Pakistan's 121. India also has 2 aircraft carriers, while Pakistan has 0, and India has more submarines, frigates, corvettes, and patrol vessels. Plus, while Pakistan has no destroyers at all, India has 13, allowing it to quickly assume dominance over the seas. As Pakistan intelligence agencies learn of these plans, the country's leadership makes a frantic call to China for aid. It knows its naval forces are no match for India, but perhaps with the help of China's navy, the largest in the world, it might have a chance. But President Xi is reluctant to get involved in the conflict this early on, and with so much on the line, he doesn't make any promises or pledges of naval support, instead urging Pakistan to seek a diplomatic resolution to the war as soon as possible. Day 7. By the end of the first week of the war, India is clearly in the ascendancy. Its cold start strategy has proven effective. Several border towns, including Shikar, are under Indian control. Karachi port is blocked, the economy is suffering, and India's military might is proving too much for Pakistan to counter. Having taken land, Indian forces are now commencing strikes on Pakistani nuclear sites, hoping to diminish Pakistan's second strike capabilities, and have just breached the borders of Lahore. Time and options are running out. Pakistan's leaders know that the longer the war continues, the greater its losses will become. It has little chance of winning any sort of sustained war, and the mood of the population is souring with every passing day. Riots and fires break out in cities, people flee to neighboring countries, and militant groups demand the use of tactical nukes to end the invasion once and for all. By this point, Pakistan has made repeated announcements that it will launch nuclear weapons as and when necessary, and it seems that time has come. The order is given, and Pakistan's military launches a 5-kiloton NASA tactical nuke on Indian troops in Punjab, killing thousands and annihilating buildings, vehicles, and structures within a half-mile radius. The Indian response is immediate. Its no first use policy no longer applies, and PM Modi authorizes the launch of nuclear-capable Prithvi 2 missiles at the Pakistan Army General Headquarters in Rawalpindi, Pakistan's 4th biggest city. The result? Death and destruction on an unprecedented scale. Millions of lives lost. Millions more threatened by the nuclear fallout and radiation clouds that would spread far and wide, extending miles across Punjab and beyond, and the beginning of a global nuclear winter. Of course, this is a hypothetical scenario, and just one of many potential ways a war between India and Pakistan could play out. And with the two nations currently locked in an exchange of missile and artillery fire, with casualties on both sides of the border, there's no telling how the situation might evolve in the days to come. Any conflict between the two will be dynamic, unpredictable, and fast-moving, with no potential to escalate or de-escalate very rapidly. Additionally, the threat of nuclear weapons could make it one of, if not the most destructive war the world has ever seen. What are your thoughts? How do you imagine a conflict between these two long-term rivals playing out? And do you imagine either side going all the way and launching nuclear weapons? Share your views in the comments below. Now go and check out India versus Pakistan, the war no one survives, or click this other video instead.